Welcome to the Get Out In It podcast, keeping our mental and physical well-being balanced by heading out into nature and doing stuff.
The activity isn't important. Walk, run, hike, bike, whatever it is, just find something you enjoy and get out in it. The point of this podcast is to show how ordinary people can achieve extraordinary levels of health and fitness.
Out here, we'll share informal, inclusive advice for anyone trying to improve their mental and physical well-being, based on our own experiences and professional knowledge from our special guests.
So let's lace up and get out in it.
And here we are, episode 14, and what a week it has been. How are you, Maria Herring?
I'm very well, James Bale. I'm back home in France. It's cooler. The landscape isn't burning. It's all going really well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. I mean, it was quite an interesting little week in Sicily, wasn't it? I mean, we had lots of fun. We saw lots of good people. We did lots of interesting things, but it was unsustainably hot throughout most of the day. So there was a lot of time where we just had to hunker down. Things were closed, and it topped out 45 to 48 degrees, and there were wildfires, and getting back was interesting, to say the least.
Interesting. There was one day where we went for a hike, and I was genuinely paranoid that we would be burnt alive. We didn't see any fires, but going for that hike, I was mildly concerned that we would be caught up in a wildfire and die as barbecue.
I mean, you put that in a very British way, didn't you? You were mildly concerned we were going to get caught in a wildfire. Yeah, it was... Europe is on fire, and the heat wave has been ravaging us. It's nice to be back in slightly cooler temperatures of France. You know, late 20s, early 30s feels like a crisp winter's day now to us, doesn't it?
It's nice, actually. And I'm digging the 25. It's my happy place.
Indeed. So, most importantly, what have you done this week to get out in it?
Got out in it. Well, yesterday I went for a run, which was so nice because it wasn't too hot. It wasn't too early because, quite frankly, fuck waking up at 5:30 every morning to go for a run before the heat. So that was nice. I enjoyed that. And what else have we done this week? Yesterday we went to cinema. That was nice. Watched Oppenheimer. That was depressing. Yeah. But basically, just kind of getting back into a routine after 3 weeks of being out of it.
Yeah, I mean, this week is an interesting one for getting out in it, isn't it? Because we have done some runs. We did 2 or 3 runs when we were in Sicily, but we had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to try and beat the heat as it took on the day. We've done a fair amount of moving around and walking, and because it was so hot, therefore a lot of sweating.
Yeah.
And then when we got back to France, we did go for a run yesterday, which was really nice. I'm still gimping along a little bit. I did manage 2 times 15 minutes running, but it's still not comfortable or pleasant yet. But you're running well, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm surprised actually. I thought after a bunch of time off I'd have to start back from the beginning again, but turns out that doesn't work like that. So I was fine on all my runs.
When you say it turns out it doesn't work like that, has anybody in your life given you a clue that might be the case at all ever, do you think, or not?
I have a coach who seems to know his onions, and he mentioned once or twice. But apart from that, no, everybody knows that if you don't do anything for several weeks, you have to start from scratch again. But as it turns out, anecdotally, you don't.
Exactly that. Now, we've got a really long interview with some interesting guests this week, haven't we? So I reckon we should just get right into it. Are you up for it?
I'm so up for it. This was perfect timing. This was a perfect conversation, and it was perfect timing. And I'm really, really, really excited to hike and chat it up with Mark and Jen. What a couple.
Getting into it. So this week we are lucky enough to be joined by Jen and Mark Lewis, fitness YouTubers and content creators. Mark has been on a journey from, in his words, fat guy to fit guy, and Jen has recently joined him on the fitness trail, completing at adventure races and various other challenges. Great to have you both here. How are you both?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Really well, thanks. Good.
Awesome. So the first question we always ask every guest we have on is, what have you done this week to get out in it?
You going first?
Yeah, I went to the gym and destroyed my back.
Uh-oh.
That was about it, really. I'm actually starting a really intense campaign of exercise to see if going from just above average, which is where my fitness currently lies, to really, really good is worth it. And currently I can't move, so I'm so far,
Day one.
so
Day
far,
one.
yeah. I mean, actually, it's exactly what I wanted to prove, because I wanted to prove that actually, when you try and go, to the extremes, everyone says you must, be the best version of you. Actually, the best version of me appears to now have a back shaped like a question mark. So yeah, it's not worth it. So that's me. I'm sat here in pain, basically, to answer your question. Jen, how about you?
You, well, we finished last week Sunday, so kind of this week we did our last longish run before we've got an ultra on Saturday. So we did a 2-hour run, which is really nice, isn't it? We were out and about. We went to like our local lake, kind of used to be gravel pits, now a big lake area, and we did a 2-hour run around there. So that was
because we have a 50k run on Saturday.
My first ultra.
I can only turn left at the moment, so I'm not quite.
Your first ultra is coming up.
Yeah, Saturday.
That's exciting.
Yeah, gonna be.
How pumped for that are you?
Not very, because it's a long way. Yeah, I didn't realize just how far it's going to feel. I mean, 2 hours running on Sunday it feels like my body breaks after that. So to think it's going to be about 6 hours to do 50k feels like it's going to be body just dying.
It's going to be grim.
Yeah.
6 hours for 50k, that's really quick. It took me 9 hours to do 55.
Yeah, but there's 2,500 meters of elevation in your first ultra, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
This one is pan flat.
Yeah,
Actually,
this has
it's
only got
interesting because
200 meters,
we brought Jen into the YouTube channel because I was constantly doing stupid sort of, I ran across whatever the country without training, kind of cliched rubbish. And I thought it'd be interesting if we actually took Jen as someone that doesn't exercise and did it all a bit more sensibly and kind of gave people a slightly more relatable story on top of my nonsense. And actually, as it turns out, she's going into her first ultra, having trained like a muppet. So it's just going to be another. My wife, this time it would just be my wife ran an ultra marathon without training. It's just more stupidity, basically.
I've done some training. I just find it very, very hard to stick to rigid training that's every day.
Yeah, or indeed regular in any sense. Yeah. So basically, we're ill prepared.
Nice.
So you talk about I mean, I know that one of the themes of your YouTube channel has always been the importance of just being above average and not really having the gulf between that and then trying to push yourself to a level where you are amazing. You lose a lot in the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued. Yeah. Before we get into the questions we were going to ask you to begin with, I'm intrigued to find out what the difference in training load you're planning on doing between what you were doing to remain just above average and what you're going to do once your back allows you to get to that point and prove that hypothesis.
Yeah, well, it's actually an interesting one because the training load, in a sense, isn't going to change dramatically. Well, what I used to do, or what I've done for years and years, is I've sort of roller coasted my way through my training and my diet. So I'd have periods of inactivity and overeating, and then periods of intense activity and diet being on form, and that sort of roller coaster effect. It was generally upward. It was an upward trend, clearly, because I was very fat and useless, and now I'm not. So there was an upward trend to it, but it was volatile. Really, all I'm going to be doing is applying extreme consistency. So I'm not going to necessarily do anything more than my previous roller coaster peaks. Were. I mean, I'm not going to be necessarily training any harder than my previous hardest, but I'll be doing it consistently, and that's almost it. I mean, there were times. This is one of the problems with social media, is that what we naturally do is we put on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or whatever, we put on our peaks. I mean, everyone does, especially in the fitness world. So you're going to see photographs of me on wherever, whatever format you look at me on, and you're going to think, wow, this guy is constantly on it, and those are literally just the peaks. What you don't see are the dips, or even you don't see in between, because it's just very boring. It's just normal life, and so people look at what I do through the window of social media and think, wow, this guy's constantly training like an elite athlete. And that's simply not the case. But going forward, actually, what I am going to try and do is what people think I do already. And people say, oh, you train all the time. No, I don't, not at all. Going forward, I will do. So it won't necessarily be any tougher, and my diet won't be any more strict than I've experienced before. But I'm going to try and remove the troughs, as it were, and see if that's worth it. Because those troughs, it's easy to portray those as a negative thing, but actually those troughs are movies and pizzas and burgers and donuts, and those are not entirely negative. Clearly,
No.
a donut is never entirely negative. It's largely positive. So. What sacrificing the dips? Yeah, in a way, actually, it's imagine a roller coaster that only went up. What a boring roller coaster! That's like a plane taking off. It's not very exciting. Yeah, the excitement of a roller
I'd be
coaster.
really excited right now if I saw it. If I was on a plane and it was taking off. To be honest,
Yeah,
right now.
while the earth burns beneath you. So the dips in life and on a roller coaster are the exciting part. I mean, you watch a movie, if you watched Rocky and he just won every fight, it's boring. You want to see, like, oh no, what's going to happen next? And like life is set up conflict resolution. That's what makes life or stories, and your life is a story, exciting. So I'm going to basically remove all the exciting conflict and drama and turmoil from my life and just turn into a really boring athlete that trains all the time, and then answer the question, is it worth it? I'll have some podiums. I might even have a world record. Who knows? But really, when I'm 85 and dying, will I even care or remember what? Those aren't the things that make your life. It's going to be an interesting journey for me. I think I will conclude it was interesting, but it wasn't worth it. And that is clearly just me, because if you're Usain Bolt, you're thinking, what's he talking about? I spent 20 years of my life doing exactly that, and it was completely worth it. Cool, that's him. It just probably isn't me. That was a long answer to a question that I completely forgot what it was.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm intrigued by what it does to you physically, but I'm more interested in what it does to your mental health, over this period of time, and how happy you can keep yourself when you're trying to be as consistent in that and not allowing yourself those moments of weakness and dips. I mean, I call it weakness, but, not allowing yourself those moments where you go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I can tell you now, I'll look amazing. I mean, there's no question. I mean, I've been doing it like 10 days, and already, I've got ab definition coming through. I will look very good. But yet again, and where's the value in that? I mean, I don't. Yeah, we place currently a value on that really shouldn't exist. It's a slightly false valuation. The idea of having a six-pack and being 9% body fat is currently valued very highly, but it never used to be. Not even in relation to health and fitness. You look at Daley Thompson from 1984. Daley Thompson wasn't running around with 9% body fat and a six-pack, and yet was widely regarded as the fittest human being on earth and winning Olympic medals. It's only recently that we've said, no, you need to look like you're on Love Island. That's where the value is. By current standards, I will look good, but whether that translates to any sort of satisfaction beyond that momentary glance in the mirror, that who knows? I'll find out, I guess. If I'm on Love Island next year, then it's all rocking and rolling. Who knows?
Then success.
yeah. Well, success to me, Jen would probably be regarding it differently.
I feel like you're at the age. I don't think you're going to make it.
Love Island Masters.
Silver Fox
if Channel 4 are listening, Love Island Masters edition.
Presenting Love Island.
Yeah, it may be. Yeah, I could do like the after show thing. Yeah, a different perspective. I think they need a slightly more mature perspective on those shows.
I think you'd ruin it for everyone. I think you'd
Yeah.
show how it's
Yeah,
not
well, you say
actually
that.
reality.
When ITV phone up this afternoon,
Okay, so Mark and Jen, I'd like to talk about food, food and fitness, because I've been away from home for the last 3 weeks because of work, and then here in the fires of Sicily for the past week. And we follow your channel, James and I, and we both know that, Mark, you've had some issues with binge eating in the past. The two of us, James and I, we've both had our own issues with food over the years as well. I had an eating disorder all throughout my teens, and it took me a long time to not see food as an enemy. And these days, now I'm a runner. I run 4 times a week. I've got strength training classes, conditioning classes, yoga. So at the moment, I'm now eating way more than I ever used to in my pre-running days. So I thought it'd just be nice if we could all have a little bit of a chat about food, and how we can help ourselves not see it as an enemy, but as a BFF. Open up the floor.
Well, for me personally, from childhood to still this day, I have always seen food as a positive thing. I have never had really an issue with it. I'm just a person that absolutely loves food. Mark is the opposite to me. In fact, one of my favourite things to discuss with Mark is our dinners, because I like to put time and effort into it because I like food and I like to cook. And I will serve it to Mark, who will very often tell me when I say, "How was dinner?" He'll always just say, "It's functional."
which is a compliment, I should
It's
add.
not a
I'm being complimentary because what that functional is. See what I've done, and it's interesting because you spoke about your is food an enemy or a friend, and I suffer from. I mean, it's a bit like being an alcoholic. You know, if you're an alcoholic and you've been sober for 30 years, you're still an alcoholic, and would regard yourself as one. Consequently, you wouldn't have a drink if you could avoid it. I am a binge eater, so whether I've binged eated, whatever the word would be, whether I've recently binge eaten or not, is irrelevant. You know, if I go 5 years without binge eating, I'm still a binge eater. You know, it always exists there somewhere. So it would be easy for me to regard, and I used to regard food as the enemy. I used to, you know, I'd have a binge eating period. And just for anyone listening that thinks, oh, yeah, I understand binge eating, because sometimes I have, you know, 3 digestive biscuits, I should have 2. Binge eating is nothing to do with greed or gluttony or laziness or whatever. I've been at 3 o'clock in the morning, exhausted, want to go to bed, feel sick. I mean, there's no reason to do anything other than go to bed and lie down. I feel sick because I've eaten all day, and I'll still eat some ice cream or something. It's nothing to do. I'm not hungry. It's nothing to do. You know, it's like saying that an alcoholic on their 20th beer is drinking it because they're thirsty. Yeah, that's not what's going on, and it's not what's going on in the mind of a binge eater when they have another donut that will make them sick. So I used to, and you can see why when I describe it like that. You can see why you think, wow, that is the enemy then. But actually, what I've learned to do is, and this isn't advice, this is just what I do. I regard my binge eating as just an annoyance now. It's a fairly recent conclusion for me. I'm short-sighted. It's annoying. I have to put contact lenses in, and if I don't, I might bang my head on something. It's just me. It's annoying. I try and do everything I can to avoid banging my head on things, but the reality is that some days I might bang my head. It doesn't, you know, it's not going to kill me. It's just annoying. So that's how I deal with my binge eating. And the reason I do it that way is because what used to happen is I would binge eat on a Monday and then spend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, annoyed that I'd binge eat. So I'd binge eat because I was annoyed. And before I know it, I'm 2 or 3 weeks into just eating badly because of one day. Now I binge eat on a Monday, and on Tuesday I think that was annoying. You know, I metaphorically banged my head, but that was Monday, and today's Tuesday. Get back on it, and I'm fine again. So I still binge eat. I always will binge eat, but by regarding it as neither friend nor enemy, just an annoying part of me, that I kind of get around it. But with that comes things like regarding food as just functional. I try not to sort of, what's the word when you you make an animal sound like a human. Is it amorphify? I'm shocking with language. Amorphify when you. I tried to make food like anything more than food. You know, if there's a nice meal and I'm hungry, great. It's tick the box. For Jen, who spent 5 hours cooking it, that's gutting to hear. But for me, it allows me to just think, no, it's food. Good, move on. What's next? Rather than thinking, that was amazing. What's for pudding?
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued because I've struggled with binge eating myself in the past, and I still do. I travel a lot. I do a lot of driving, and I know that if I have that first packet of salt and vinegar discos when I'm going up and down the motorway, I'm fucked. If
Yeah.
I can avoid it, then before you know it, I've had 8 packets of salt and vinegar discos, and I'm buying myself a Burger King, and then I'm getting home, and that used to sort of echo through the week once I got home. If it was a Monday and I was traveling back from France, it would echo into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'd have to really have a word with myself to pull myself out of it. Now I've put a strategy in place where I'm at home. I pretty much eat the same thing every day. Like you, food is functional. I have a huge amount of vegetables, small portion of protein, very small portion of carbohydrates every single day.
Yeah.
Almost the same thing, just cooked slightly differently. And that means that I've got that sort of mechanical pattern when I'm at home, so that when I do fuck up, when I'm out and about, I know that you are what you do 99% of the time. And so I can go home and everything will be fine.
Yeah, you
I'm
got
interested
that
to know what
foundation to fall
strategies.
back on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested in what strategies you've put in place to be able to get to that point in your head where you can fuck up and then draw a line and just think, well, it's just a bump in my head.
Well, the same thing by just having incredibly boring consistency to what 90% of my time looks like. Excuse me. So I have a Huel shake every morning for breakfast because it's not great. It's just yeah, it's 400 calories. It's high protein. It's done. It's easy. So every day that I wake up thinking, oh, yesterday was a nightmare, I can kick the day off with something that I know is edible, fine, perfect. Yeah, it ticks all the boxes, and I'm straight into routine again. I have almost the same lunch every day. I mean, it's consistency. It's consistency. Because I've been. I mean, you talk about the motorway stories. Again, just to give people some sort of perspective on what goes through the lunatic mind of binge eaters. I've been in situations where I used to go into a garage to get petrol, and I would buy huge amounts of chocolate and sweets to eat on my long car journey wherever I was going. And halfway through them, I'd think, this is insane. I can't eat another chocolate bar. I would throw the chocolate bars out the window of the motorway. Okay, I apologise to anyone listening, thinking, oh, you littering the countryside. But on the plus side, there was a fox that had a whatever nice Kit Kat or something that day. So I'd throw the food out the window, think I can't eat it now because it's now bouncing down the M4. And I'd pull into the next garages and restock. I mean, on food that I'd literally just thrown out the window. I mean, that's the and again, that's not. I'm not, an idiot. I mean, I'm a moderately intelligent person doing insane things. So that's what I'm dealing with. So when people go, oh, it sounds a bit boring, have the same thing every day for lunch. It's a bit boring, but it's not as bad as throwing Toblerones out the window of your car. So it's for me, it's knowing how bad it can be. I don't get too bogged down in the, that's a bit boring. Is it okay? Maybe with food. I'll take boring over problem any day.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I love food and I love a variation, but it has to be boring. It has to be consistent when I'm at home because that's 70% of my time. The rest of the time, that allows me then to sort of, like you say, bang your head and just shake it off.
Yeah, it's
But
a
that was
bit.
the problem.
Oh, go on.
Sorry, that was a problem I was having yesterday. We were talking about this while we were on a hike through the burning Sicilian landscape. Because I've been away for so long, and this week, particularly being a vegan in Sicily, bread and pizza is literally the only thing we can eat, pizza without cheese. And so I was spinning out because I was eating so much food, the same food, but not great food. And I haven't got the ability. My eating disorder in my teens was anorexia. And so if I feel like I'm overeating, that can spin me out still, even though it's thousands of years ago that I was a teen. And James had to talk me down.
Because I've become an expert in just drawing a line and thinking, you know what, this week all we can eat is pizza. Fine, it'll be okay. I'm going to eat the pizza. Then I'm going to go home and get back on the wagon again.
Yeah.
Whereas you struggle with that a little
Can't
bit.
find the line. I haven't got a pen yet. I can't draw that line. It's tricky for me.
Well, one of the things I do on holidays, I've got used to and taking food with me wherever I'm going. I mean, even like, we went to New York a few weeks ago. Obviously, New York is got every food you could imagine. But just in case, I still took about a kilo of protein powder and Huel. I mean, if there's anyone going through my bag at customs, would have thought I was Tony Montana going into the country. I had a lot of powder, and that's I'll have my protein shake. So when I'm kind of thinking, do I want to go out tonight and have a big American burger? If I can have a protein shake beforehand and think, okay, no, I've filled up, I've had a protein shake. That means mentally I'm on it. I'm doing something good. I'm less inclined to wander. Where it goes wrong is I just don't do it anymore. Is when I go off to another country that isn't best equipped to serve my needs. And I find myself, I mean, literally, we were in Turkey recently and going into McDonald's. I mean, I can't stand the people that go to another country and then end up in a McDonald's or a Starbucks. I mean, that to me is horrific. But that's literally what we did, eating chips in McDonald's. Whereas what I should have done is I should have gone back to the room and just mixed up a protein shake or a meal replacement shake that I brought from home, and just that's that. I haven't come to Turkey to sample the delights of the cuisine. Why were we in Turkey? We were in Turkey for the sun, weren't we? We do that now. People say, "Oh, you're on holiday, enjoy yourself." Well, yeah, okay, but enjoy myself doesn't. Why should that mean stuff myself every day with rubbish? That isn't. Why can't enjoy myself be exercise? People go, "Oh, you're on holiday. Why are you exercising?" Well, why am I exercising? Because it's lovely to run around in the sun on the beach. That's how I enjoy my holiday. So I also had to kind of reassess what I think a holiday is, or what I think enjoyment is. So for me, we're going to Egypt later this year, and for me, I'm looking forward to snorkeling, swimming, using the gym, running every day on the beach in the morning before the sun comes up. Food irrelevant. I mean, no disrespect to our Egyptian friends, but the food in an Egyptian resort hotel is not. I'll go without. I'm fine, thanks. I'll have my shakes every morning, and maybe some bland pasta or something. I don't need food. Some people will be like, "Oh no, food's a big part of the holiday." Not for me. It's not. Just isn't. For Jen, it is.
Well, I like my carb.
So Jen, your relationship with food sounds quite healthy. You sound you like
Yeah.
your carbs and you're on a level and you don't kick yourself about it. When you
No.
started the fitness journey a couple of years ago, or however long it was, did your relationship with food have to change? Have you had to increase your intake of carbs and proteins to be able to accommodate what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my only issue when it comes to eating properly for what I'm doing, whether it's doing high rocks training or training for the 50K ultra, whatever it is normally I don't get enough protein. And being vegan has made that so much harder as well for me. So that's a challenge, because if I had my way, my diet would literally be 90% carbs. Also, what I find, because my relationship is a healthier one than yours when it comes to food, I would say, because haven't ever binged eat. I don't do binge eating. I'm not a binge eater. It's very not. This is gonna sound bad, probably, if it's not meant in a bad way, but it's quite hard being the person that's not the binge eater in a relationship with somebody that is a binge eater, because you have to separate that. Oh, let's just have a nice night out and let's have the pizzas and have a midnight snack and go out and have a dessert at midnight. Whereas for Mark, obviously that's quite hard for him to do and not go off on like a wagon, off the wagon, and it affect the rest of his week. Where for me, I can have ice cream at midnight and it does nothing for me the next morning. I can stop at the one scoop of ice cream. So I find
Actually, it's interesting because
hard to do.
I gain way more in terms of food. I gain way more from our food relationship from Jen than Jen gains from me. Because, for example, when Jen's right, if we have a tub of Ben and Jerry's each, Jen will have 2 scoops and then stop and kind of go and put it back in the fridge, the freezer, which to me is just insanity. Whereas I eat the whole thing. In fact, I actually quite enjoy it because I eat the whole thing, and I get to finish hers as well. But for me, it's quite useful because I can look at her and think, oh, look, there's an example of normality. So when I'm thinking, no, it's perfectly normal to eat all this ice cream. This is I'm doing nothing wrong. I can look at Jen and think, normality, and it gives me a reason for pause. Whereas Jen looks at me and probably thinks lunacy. So one of us is thinking, this is great, this is normal. I'm inspired by what the other person's doing. The other person's thinking, this guy's a crazy pig chomping his way through his ice cream. So I get a lot out of it. I get a lot out of seeing Jen eat like a normal person, because it gives me it gives me an example. That's probably the best way to put it. It gives me an example of what can be done. In my mind, 2 scoops of ice cream, if you stop there, you're going to be starving. Clearly, Jen demonstrates that you can have 2 scoops of ice cream and not die. So I can look at Jen and think, wow, that's normality, and it gives me a sort of an example of where one can be, and because otherwise it's very easy, when you are eating too much or drinking too much or anything that you do too much of, if you do it in a bit of a bubble, it's quite hard to work out what's the problem with that. If you're and this is the thing with drinking, for example. If you drink a little bit too much, but all of your friends do, and it's quite hard to look at an example of normality and think, well, hang on a minute, it isn't normal to drink, or at least it's not. I was going to say it's not normal. I mean, there's no normality. It's just it's possible to not drink every night. But if all your friends drink every night, then why would that even occur to you? So it is quite easy for me sometimes to think, no, eating 7 or 8 times a day is and it's no big deal. But when I've got Jen not doing that, it's a nice reminder, if nothing else, for me that there's another way than constant eating.
Because this is the other thing I've had this week. The first couple of weeks I was away from home, I was doing sports camps with kids, so there was no booze. Like, again, after my eating disorder in my teens, in my 20s, I embarked upon a lovely career of substance abuse, so that was fun. So now I obviously I don't do drugs anymore, and I rarely drink, but because we were here in Sicily to celebrate a friend's wedding, there was booze everywhere. Do you know what I mean? And like yesterday, I had a bit of a hangover when we were going for a hike in the boiling 1,000,000-degree heat, and I was like, what have I done to myself? And I was so angry at myself for having drunk, like, what was it, a few glasses of Prosecco.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun hike yesterday, wasn't it? It was
but I was really like physically and mentally and verbally beating myself up because I'd had some alcohol, I'd eaten too much food. It was insane. And I find it really hard to kind of bring myself back down to a level where I can just say, look, it's fine. You're not doing this all the time, and it's for a special occasion. Get the fuck over yourself. But I can't. It's really weird.
I find it. I mean, I think I'm nearly 50, and there is no question that getting older and therefore closer to being dead, it has helped me, because one of the things that becomes very, it was interesting because when I was about to turn 40, so exactly 10 years ago, I thought my life would continue on for many years. I didn't expect to die at 40, but I thought it would be pointless. My assumption was that once you hit 40, you are old and useless, and nothing will progress from that point. You won't get a better job or a better relationship, or nothing will get better. You'll basically just spend the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years on a downhill slope. Interestingly, now I'm about to turn 50, I expect that my life will still continue on, but not for as long. I mean, there'll be at least 10 years less because 10 years have passed. But I don't expect it to be negative in any way. I expect to get fitter, faster, stronger, and everything has the potential to get better in some way. I'll see new things I've never seen and go new places. So there's an awful lot to live for. And when you suddenly realise that, you suddenly think, oh shit, there's not much time. I don't have time I don't have time for anything, really. I certainly don't have time for anything that's not positive. So when I look back at how many days, if not weeks, I used to lose because I was annoyed at myself, I simply don't have time. I mean, how annoying to be 90 and think, oh, I never got to go to X, but I did spend 3 weeks depressed about donuts at one point. You know, what a waste. So I think for me, as I've got older, it's become very acutely aware to me. I mean, daily, I'm just constantly aware of the fact that, you know, clock is ticking. Yeah, I mean, 30, I was thinking about this just the other day. 30 years ago, I was an adult. I was a grown adult. I was an adult man. So it wasn't that long ago, as it were. It wasn't like I was a kind of baby 30 years ago. I had my own house and everything. 30 years time, I'll be an 80-year-old man. So
Yeah.
time suddenly feels, oh my God, because I can remember being 20, 30 years ago. It's not long ago. So 80 isn't going to be long either. So yeah, I just don't have time. And that made me think, you cannot spend any more time than you absolutely have to on things that aren't moving you forward. And so accept that you are going to binge eat sometimes. That's simply unavoidable for me. Some people might say, no, you can solve it. I can't. But what I can do is I can limit it to, well, as short a period as possible. So for me, getting older has helped. Jen's got ages to go yet before she realizes that.
I was going to say, I might get to 40 and have the exact same feeling. It's all
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
hard. It's hard to explain. I mean, 50 is an interesting. How old are you guys?
I'm 45.
And I'm 38, so I
Yeah.
haven't quite experienced 40 yet.
Yeah. See, it's interesting. 50s. I'm 50. For me, I'm really genuinely looking forward to it because the older you get, the more you stand out. Yeah. I mean, there's not many in shape 40-year-olds. There's even less 50-year-olds. So it's quite nice to be one of the only ones that's still, you know, able to kind of jog around and stuff. So I'm looking forward to 50, but it does come with the realization that that it's you're in a different place. You know, aches and pains, you know, are different. And also you look at your friends, and you know, I say you look at your friends, the ones that are still alive. You know, people start dying at 50.
50 is that age. It's the first time you're at the point where you truly remember your parents being that age.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, almost. I remember my parents being younger. When I think of my parents both still alive in their 80s. When I think of my dad, I think of my dad as being. Well, I don't think of him as an age, but when I picture him in my head, if I was to then age that picture, he'd be about 40, which is 10 years ago for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when I think of my dad when he was 50, so he was 50 when I was in my 20s. He already seemed like an old guy, and so yeah, you suddenly become aware that you jump very fast from being just a man to suddenly being an old man. Yeah, I speak on behalf of men. Obviously, women can think their own thing, but yeah, I just become very aware of that, and I don't mind it, but it does. I tell you what it's like. It's like being at a theme park, and it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they go, and you suddenly realise, oh shit, this place shuts at 5:30. You know, that's not. We've had an amazing day. That's not a bad thing, but we haven't got time to, you know, queue up for candy floss. There are rides to go on. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. You know.
Yeah.
I love that. I think I need to, when I'm having one of my spirals, I think I need to remember that. Just say to myself, time,
Yeah.
and not waste time. Like the hike yesterday, so nice, beautiful, absolutely dramatic, and all I was doing was like freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, there is so little time. I mean, when you 100 years ago, no one knew. You didn't exist. Your parents didn't exist. There was nothing. 100 years time, there'll be nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone that believes, you know, over the Rainbow Bridge or whatever. There's nothing. You've got this tiny little bit. So spending it doing anything other than cracking on, just is nonsensical.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and again, the theme park analogy is great. You know, sometimes you have to walk from one ride to another. It's not constant activity. Yeah, you're not on a roller coaster non-stop. But if you're not walking towards your next one, what are you doing? You know, are you walking around are you walking around a gift shop buying a ruler with a theme park name on it? Get a grip. You know, go and do something else that's more exciting.
I am. I think the discovery of strength training in my life has allowed me to deal with getting older a lot easier. Because, like you say, it's easier. The older you get, the stronger you get, the easier it is to you stand out more as someone who is looking after themselves in that generation.
Yeah,
But I haven't reached 40 yet, so I don't know. I might have a total breakdown when I get to 40 and just like donuts.
The other thing to do is to compete. I mean, is to put yourself into a play, and competition can be anywhere. It can be a park run. It doesn't need to be, we do all sorts. We do Spartan and High Rocks and whatever. But when you compete at something, it's nice because it reminds you that because on the one hand, it's cool to be the only person in shape. You know, if I in my social circle, none of my friends are in shape particularly, and so that gives me a nice ego boost. But equally, it's also nice to go to something like a High Rocks or a Spartan obstacle course, or even just a half marathon. You know, anything. This ultra marathon we're doing. Yeah, there'll be people at that ultra marathon that are way older than me that will leave me standing, and I like that. I like to be reminded. Okay, you're good, but you're not all that. You know, there's more above you if you want if you want that.
We did a 56K in Beaujolais ultra marathon 2 years ago now, and it was 56 kilometers, but there was a double loop you could do, so you'd be 112 kilometers if you so wished. And I remember we were coming to the end of our first 56K and getting towards the finish line, and I got overtaken by somebody who must have been French guy, must have been 75, going faster than me. He asked me if I was okay because I probably looked like I wasn't okay. And then I asked if he was okay, and he was like, "Yeah, just finishing my second lap." It was, oh mate, whatever.
Then just kind of goated down this hill like it was flat, and we were like, "What the actual?"
So I love that. Again, this is an age thing. I used to get very. This is an age and a man thing. I used to get very kind of defensive of people that were better than me, competitive. You know, if you're a bloke and you see someone doing something better than you, it's very easy to think. It's very easy to kind of jump to a negative and think, ego. Now, I love that. I'm inspired. I couldn't care less what some 25-year-old gym monkey's doing on the internet. It's so far removed from me now in terms of age that it's completely irrelevant. But seeing someone that's 5 years older than me beat me at something, awesome. Or because that's I love that. I love that exists. I love that there's I'm not at the top. There are other people out there doing what I'm doing. I'm better at it. I love it. I love just getting overtaken by people. I did Reading Half Marathon a couple of years ago. I was dying. Little old ladies jogging past me. If I had the energy, I'd have been clapping them. I was just like, you are inspiring me for the next 20 years.
That's true. Yeah. I think that's the thing with endurance. You can get better with age, which is pretty cool.
Especially ladies. I mean, ladies. That's the thing with Jen. Jen's got 50 years of getting faster.
So Jen, I'd like to have I have a question for you actually, because I know I watched one of the videos. I can't remember which one. Anyway, so you were like super insta fit, and I'd like to ask you, what is the difference now that you're doing this training and stuff? What's the difference between looking fit and being fit?
It's like a huge difference. Like, hard to explain how different it is to just look like somebody that is fit. And so at the start, before I started my fitness journey and just looked like I could do anything at the gym or go to a 10K run and just knock one out the park, to me, what was annoying about that would be literally that the expectation that people would have of you just on the way that you look, which was so far removed from the actual truth. When I started my running journey, or even before then, when I first met Mark at the age of 25, I couldn't run. Probably like I was running 7.5 minute kilometers with Mark when I first met him, and
for a 5K.
For a 5K, and it was killing me. I literally couldn't keep running, so I never went to park run when I first met Mark at 25 because I was so slow at it. but looked like I should be up there with everyone else in like the 20-25 minute kind of bracket. So that was hard, and just the actual effort it takes to actually be fit and healthy, to look at it, to look like it, was no effort at all. It was just luck on my behalf. It was genetic luck. Like my mum was always quite small and skinny growing up, and she'd always tell me, "Oh, just wait until you hit 30, or just wait until you hit 40, it will all change." So I was just lucky. Whereas to actually be fit and healthy, especially like with my running ability, it's taking so much time to just be able to knock off just small amounts of time, from being able to do zone 2. I started my journey doing zone 2 runs at something ridiculous, like a 9-minute kilometer pace, whereas now I can do zone 2 runs at about a 7-minute pace. So I'm chuffed at that, but it's taken like a year of running for me to be able to get to a point where I think, okay, I am improving. So huge difference there, and I love the fact, and also hate the fact at the same time, that actually trying with fitness, if you stop, it goes so quickly. Like if you stop running just for a couple of weeks or a month, going backwards just happens so quickly compared to the going forward. If you just kept on running for that month and didn't give up, like the progression is so much better than the going back. It just happens so much quicker.
Yeah.
The reason for it is because fitness is hard.
It is.
And being fit is just lucky. So, and this is especially the case for women. Less so now, because actually, I mean, I'm just trying to kind of pick my words to not upset half the population. If you are female and slim, and you just have a build that you would have irrespective of anything you did. You know, some women at between 20 and 30 will just look a certain way no matter what they do or don't do. And if that just happens to be the build that currently society deems to be valuable, because that changes over time and changes over cultures as well. But if you have the one, then you're laughing. Yeah, I mean, literally, you can become a multimillionaire by doing nothing other than saying, "Look at my body." Isn't it lucky that right now this society at this time judges this to be incredibly valuable? Yeah, if you went back 200 years, even 100 years, and you looked like whoever the top Instagrammer is at the moment, a female Instagrammer, you'd be, whatever, sewing dresses or something, because no one values that body. I mean, it's a complete irrelevance. So some women get away with being regarded as fit in the 14-year-old boy sense. Wow, you're fit. It's not fit. And men, it's a bit different for men, because currently society regards juiced up steroid monkeys as being fit. So, I mean, in a sense, at least the guys have to do something. I mean, it happens to be performance-enhancing drugs and live in the gym, but I mean, something's better than nothing, I guess. So you can be a girl that does nothing but just luckily looks a certain way, and a bloke that does nothing but bench press and take drugs, and ka-ching, you're now fitness models. And the reality is that's nothing to do with fitness at all. Well, I say it's nothing to do with fitness. Being slim is an aspect of fitness, potentially. And so is strong and having muscles. But it's only one part of it. You take your average female fitness influencer, male or female, and ask them to go and do a park run. Many of them will struggle massively. Ask them to do an ultramarathon, they'll have a flipping coronary. So, it's just it's annoying that we live. Just right now, society is saying, well, that's the shape that we like, and it's women that look a certain way and men that look a certain way, and you don't have to go back. I mean, again, you go back to 1980s. If you looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger, as he did in the 80s, people regarded that as an incredible body, but in the sense of an incredible freakish body. There weren't really many people that were aspiring.
Like looking at an alien.
Yeah, and consequently, he's cast as one almost. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you were, when I was 13, 14 in the 80s, if you went to the gym, people would laugh at you a little bit. It wasn't, you played football, that was it. If you said, no, I'm going to go and do, bench press, people would laugh. Why? Why are you doing that? I look like Rocky. What a weirdo. Now it's the norm. That's what all 14-year-old kids want to be, boys especially, want to be Mr. Olympia, which is a bizarre thing to want to be. And again, it's 20, 30 years. In 20, 30 years' time, it'll be something completely different. Again, it won't potentially. It won't be what it is today. We'll look back at people that look like they look, now with six packs and huge muscles that are arguably a little bit pointless. In fact, I had a great quote. Ryan Gosling. This makes me laugh. Ryan Gosling, currently, in Barbie, as kind of like almost the perfect man. I mean, he's Barbie's the perfect woman. He's the perfect man. If you showed Ken Gosling, Ryan Gosling to most 14-year-old boys, they think, no, what a scrawny, skinny bloke. I want to look like Chris Bumstead or Mr. Olympia. And yet the reality is that actually, if you show Mr. Olympia or Ryan Gosling to 1,000 women, which is what most boys are interested in appealing to, far more of them are going to pick Ryan Gosling, which is why Ryan Gosling is a romantic lead and Arnold Schwarzenegger or even The Rock isn't. Ryan Gosling's quote was, "I don't train to get big muscles because they're it's like having a stupid pet. You get it and you have to feed it all the time, and then you realise that actually it doesn't do anything useful, and it's just a hassle. It's just a hassle to have." I thought, yeah, spot on. Why is no one saying this? It is a hassle to walk around with 18-inch arms. It's of no value. It's like having one of those ridiculous big muscly dogs that people kind of walk around council estates with and scare everyone with. It's that. It's what? Who are you appealing to? Ironically, who people are appealing to is other men. I mean, that's the, who looks at muscly men on Instagram? It's boys that want to grow up into be muscly men. And who looks at hot women on Instagram? It's women that are annoyed that don't look like that. That's who's looking at those people. It's all bonkers.
That's interesting, actually, because that leads perfectly into my next little question for both of you, actually, but Jen mostly because you're a social media influencer who's also a woman. So do you feel like you have a responsibility or a pressure in the way that you portray yourself and your body that perhaps Mark doesn't? Or maybe, Mark, you feel the same way?
There's definitely a pressure that you do feel. I'm constantly worried, which is stupid, I'm sure, as to what you should and shouldn't post on Instagram, or how I should or shouldn't look, what I should and shouldn't wear. Down to, I normally say to Mark before I post something, I'm like, can you just read this, or can you look at these pictures just to check that you think it's not going to be something that somebody's going to think is some way, I don't know what the word would be. Inappropriate or disliked by most people. And bizarrely, given how everyone's meant to be more for each other, especially women these days are meant to be more supportive of each other, it is bizarre to think that the biggest worry to post as a woman on Instagram is what other women will think. I don't ever think, oh, what will the men think? I am always thinking, what will other women think? So, yeah, I definitely think there's a pressure to posting something on Instagram or any social media.
The reason for it slightly is that we're in a slightly weird or slightly unusual space in social media because we are older than the average social media fitness influencer, and also we have no fitness training. We're not. In fact, if someone says to me, "What do you do?" I'm a YouTuber. I make videos. That's what I make videos. It happens to be about fitness, but that's just what it happens to be about. I'm not a fitness YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber. So we aren't typical fitness YouTubers was my point. And I'm very aware that we aren't appealing to the people that I mean, just you have guys like Matt Does Fitness and Mike Thurston and stuff who are kind of younger fitness influencers who are very big and muscled, and they have that kind of classic fitness influencer look, and that's cool, and they have their market, and it's huge. Good luck to them. But we have a different market, so we are both acutely aware that if we stick up something of us looking really good, or doing something that could easily be perceived as really good, it does lead to us being less relatable to people. And it's a fine balance for us. I mean, for example, if you are someone who looks incredible, or you're at the top of your game, for example, random, say Eddie Hall, world's strongest man at one point. Eddie Hall can post himself doing things on Instagram that are stronger than any other human being on earth. That's his thing. His thing is that he is elite. And people just look up to him as inspiration. That's as simple as that. No one is looking at Eddie Hall and thinking, oh yeah, I'm on a par with him. They're just thinking, wow, so far ahead of me, inspiring. But part of our kind of shtick a little bit is that we're doing things that, at least for some people, are achievable. And so for us to post things that are really, really good, whether it's looking good or doing something good, moves us away at times from that. One of the criticisms that we get sometimes is, well, you're not above average anymore. You're now really above average. In fact, I'm literally doing a video at the moment. It comes up tomorrow night, Friday night, on my journey that was in the middle. So forget when I was completely useless. Forget when I was really good. What was I doing in the middle to try and give people that kind of relatable experience? So yeah, if either one of us sticks up a photograph where we look amazing, or at least amazing in terms of what society thinks is amazing at the moment, then it does cross our minds in a way that it might not do. Well, it doesn't with other people, because other people just post to look amazing. In the same way that Eddie Hall posts, lifting 1,000 pounds or whatever. If you're a crazy hot, traditional sense, you're a hot, beautiful looking woman, you just post pictures of yourself looking beautiful and hot, lounging by the pool. That's your Eddie Hall thing. You're not expecting anyone to find you relatable. Lounging by the Maldives or something. You're expecting people to think you look incredible, and that's your shtick. That isn't what we do, and it's harder. It's harder to juggle.
Do you get a lot of comments, criticisms, shit from people who are saying, well, okay, you're saying you're just above average, but actually you're doing all this work,
Yeah,
we
not
think
not a lot. I mean, it's tricky because sometimes you get a video does 500,000 views, and you get 3 people say, well, you're not really above average, are you? And you kind of think, oh my God, the world's turning against me. You think, well, hang on a minute, 500,000 people aren't, and 3 are. So we try to constantly remind ourselves that the opinion of 1, 2, 3, 4 people, even 100 people, if there's we're putting our videos out to 8.5 billion humans on Earth. If 100 of them think we're idiots, that doesn't necessarily mean we're idiots. So we have to kind of remind ourselves of that sometimes. But there is a fairly constant stream of people saying, yeah, you're not above average, and you shouldn't say you are because it makes it unrelatable, and it's a tricky one. I mean, I find it slightly annoying because I don't do a staggering amount of training. I did a video recently on how little training I do. So when I then go and jog around a park run, I do it in 20 minutes. That is something that anybody could do. If you are in your 30s, as I was, and you're slow, and you're otherwise physically able, and you want to, you could run a 20-minute park run. I mean, these aren't kind of like world-class abilities. They're just plod away and you'll get there. So when people say to me, oh, that's unrelatable, well, I want to say, no, it isn't. But equally, that doesn't help someone saying it is. So, yeah, it's a balance. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm doing this current push towards being really good is so that I can slightly leave that behind a little bit and say, no, it's not relatable. I'm going to run an 18-minute 30 park run or something. No, most people aren't ever going to do that. I mean, arguably many could, but they simply aren't. You're just not going to put in the time, the effort, especially for females, because females run a bit slower than men. I mean, a woman running an 18:30 park run is a it happens all the time, but it's not happening regularly. It's not happening at every park run. So I'm almost kind of enjoying that I'm going to be able to say, no, I am currently way past where most people not could get to, but realistically would get to, because they won't put in the effort, and why should they? I'm almost saying to people, being up here at the top of this ladder is boring and dumb and stupid and expensive and time consuming. You don't want to come up here, but I am up here and you're down there. Suck it up. It's just what it is. As opposed to kind of juggling where I am. I'm halfway up the ladder. You could be here too, but then you've got people at the bottom going, oh no, I can't because whatever. I don't know, whatever excuse. Yeah, and yeah. So I don't know. I'm bored with juggling a little bit. But Jen, again, that's why Jen's here, because Jen's
never has any want or desire to be at top of any ladder.
Yeah. You say that, but equally is off the floor. You're a few rungs higher than most. And again, Jen can look at her friends now. What are you, 34? So Jen looks at her friends who are 34, and in a way they weren't 10 years ago. These are 25-year-old girls that have done no exercise for 10 years, and so they're heading in the direction of anyone that does that, which is downhill physically. And so you are above average, but to suggest you're unachievably above average would be insane. Anyone saying that would be nuts. So Jen's a nice counter to me kind of going in the other direction for a bit before we meet up again at the bottom, because Jen ain't coming up any higher.
I like my balance between what I do now and living just normal life. I like the balance I have. I wouldn't want to put any more into the training time into it than I already do.
No. And again, that's nice counter to me, because I can look at that and think, actually, Jen does very little compared to me, eats kind of what she wants but sensibly, and appears to be healthy and happy and content. So when I worry that, I haven't worked out quite as hard as I wanted this week, I kind of look at Jen and thought, well, she hasn't worked out at all, and she appears to be all right. So Jen's my canary in the mine. As long as she's smiling, I kind of think, okay, I can take a day off and it will all be well.
I can see where it comes from though, like to be when my head is in the right space and I am sat, or I have just done a workout and I think, okay, no, I enjoyed that workout, and I think actually where you are now in your fitness level, where you are now in your weight and everything like I'm constantly got going on, I do occasionally have that look into the future and go, if I just put that 10%, 20% more effort in, I could do really great at 10k runs. I could, if I pushed myself, I could. So I can see why people are attempted to do it. I can see why that happens. I do occasionally think that, and then I go to Mark and I think, oh my god, I want to get really good at 10k racing, and Mark would be like, yeah, this is going to be a fluttering 5-minute thing, and it is always 5 minutes of me just going, I want to do it, and then never actually wanting to put in the effort to do it.
Actually, it's interesting that this won't work on an audio-only podcast, but because I'm drawing with my fingers. But Jen started off kind of at the bottom and then rode up the ladder of fitness by aiming to get really good at doing high rocks, multidiscipline fitness events. So that was our aim: shoot up that ladder. And then she kind of got 3/4 of the way up it and thought, I don't really like this ladder. But over there is the running ladder, so I'm gonna scoot across to the running ladder, and a comparable distance up the ladder of running compared to where we were heading in terms of high rocks is cranking out 50k ultras. It's high up that ladder. So Jen made this kind of sideways mental leap across to, I'll be a runner at 50k ultra, sign up for that. 100k ultra, sign up for that. Having arrived on that ladder, she's now realised that actually, this is the right ladder, but I am way too high up this thing. I want to go down it. So she's now going down the running ladder, and ultimately will probably, I'm guessing slightly, probably settle on doing occasional 5 and 10Ks. So she's kind of gone up one ladder across and then halfway down the other. Now, what would have been easier would have been starting from the floor, just pick running and go a few rungs up it by doing some park runs. We've kind of got there around the bushes, but that's no bad thing. I'm telling people all the time, do anything, because you can always do literally that. You can always jump across. If you take up golf and decide you hate it, well, whatever, switch to tennis. It's still hitting the ball. You have some transferable skills. Just do something. So that's Jen's journey. Up across and down.
Difficulty isn't always dictated by distance either. Some of the hardest races I've done have been 5K. 5K can be very difficult, depending on how you're approaching it.
That's because they're really fast. They're so fucking fast. This is why I love ultras, because you can basically walk half the time.
I know that's what kind of tempted me to do the ultra, because I came back from a 10K once and it was zone 2 training on a 10K, and I was like, oh, this is blissful. I was like, a 10K in zone 2. I was like, I'm loving life. And then that's how I ended up coming back to the office to Mark and saying, I reckon I could do 100K. I was like, that was lovely doing a 10K at zone 2. I was like, why could you not do it for another 10 times? And that's how it happened. But on your basis of the 5K being a hard race, is one of my most hated things to do currently, because I'm still trying to get my 25-minute park run, and I find it really hard just to be able to push myself. I'm terrible at being maxed out. Well, not even maxed out. I'm not maxed out. But mentally, I find it hard to be pushing myself the whole way on a 10 or 5K or even a 10K, because if you want to get your PB, you are heart rate going the whole entire time, and I just find it mentally hard to do that for the whole time. I don't have a push in me.
And 25 minutes. Yeah. 25 minutes at that pace consistently. Oof.
Yeah, it's tough. 5K is an interesting one, because obviously 5K relates to a lot of people to park run. Obviously, millions of people doing park run every Saturday around the world. So it's a very relatable distance for a lot of people, and done by a lot of people. But actually, it's not messing about. In a way, you're having an easier time going and doing an enjoyable 10K or a half marathon through your local town centre. Waving at the people dressed up as clowns and stuff. That's a fun day out. But going and doing a 5K, if I go and do a 5K, a fast 5K for me is about 19 minutes. So I'm running under 4-minute kilometres. And again, it's not elite by any standard, but for a 50-year-old bloke that's 220 pounds, it's not hanging about. That's tough. That's 20 minutes or 19 minutes of extreme discomfort. And when I go and do an ultra marathon, it's not. I have to kind of switch my head and think, I don't need to win this. I don't need to get close to it. I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm literally going to look at the countryside and jog past sheep, and it's a different mentality. So 5K, I sometimes use 5K quite kind of blasé as a sort of, hey, if you can do 5K, it's all good. But actually, 5K, once you start getting under 25 minutes, for anyone that's listening that thinks, I'm at 26 or whatever, to get down to 25 is relatively straightforward for most people if they put in the time and the effort. I mean, I'm not a running coach, but I can have a stab at that as a factual statement. Anybody that is otherwise fit and healthy can get under 25 minutes for a park run. Bit of time and effort. It's not, that's doable. But to go from 25 to 20 is a different thing. Unless you're just genetically very lucky, that's work. And to go under 20 is it's a different place.
I'm glad we kind of moved on to training a little bit, because my next question was, as social media superstars that you are with all of these legions of followers, how, because you said you're also going to Egypt later on, how do you deal with interrupted training schedules? Because again, last 3 weeks, this has been something that's been like plaguing my mind hole for the last 3 weeks. So do you schedule your holidays as times when you're not going to train, or do you manage to fit in your training whilst on holiday? How do you deal with that, with interrupted training schedules?
You just stop training, don't you?
No, we go normally with the best intentions to train, so we don't ever go away without packing gym gear. For example, when we went to New York to do High Rocks, I took my running gear because I'm on my running journey at the moment to do my ultra. So the plan was to do running whilst in New York. And I did a run. Yeah. I was meant to do about 2 or 3 runs whilst we were in New York, and I ended up doing 1. So it is interrupted, clearly. But again, don't get hung up on it. We enjoyed New York. I'd rather look back on New York and go, we enjoyed New York and had some late nights, and then didn't get up in the morning to go for a run, rather than the other way around and think, oh, we went to New York and we didn't go to do X, Y, and Z because I was too concerned about going for a 10K run in the morning.
Interesting. Sometimes the intent, in terms of, again, this comes back to looking at things long term, I mean, I've got in my head at the moment. I've got in my head the things I'm writing this current video about, and one of the things is that on the one side, the older you get, the shorter time you have, but on the other side of it is, you still have time, and so yes, at 50, I have less time than I did when I was 40, but I still have time. So I don't get too bogged down in a week here or a week there, because if for example, I've this year, so where are we now? September, aren't we? No, we're not in September, are we? Where are we?
July.
July. Okay, I'm losing months. We're in July. I have started my push for excellence about 15 times this year. Okay, it started on November last year when I turned 49, and it failed. And I just don't get too bogged down about the fact that I started and then it didn't really happen. Because I've got time, another couple of months here. In 5 years' time, when I'm 55, how fit I am at 55 won't be dictated by whether I started that push in July or August or September or October. It just won't matter. So,
or had a week off.
Yeah, it just will not. It will make no difference at all. So there's time. So we don't worry about losing a week here or there. Having said that, if we go on holiday with the intention being good. So I've gone on holiday sometimes. I mentioned earlier taking my protein shakes with me. I've gone on holiday taking 10 little sachets of protein shakes all bagged up and everything, and come back and I might have had one of them or none of them even. But that doesn't matter because firstly, the fact that I had a week where clearly I wasn't on it, we've already established a week doesn't matter. I had the right mindset going into it. So I haven't lost my mindset. I just had a week off. As opposed to thinking, I'm going on holiday, so fuck everything. That isn't a good mind. I don't want to do that. I'd rather go on holiday with a great intention that never comes to anything and come back and just roll with it than go on holiday thinking, nah, screw it, doesn't matter. Because I'm then coming back.
How much damage can I do to myself on this holiday?
So so when we go to Egypt, we'll be taking our trainers and our kit, and I'll be packing my food and maybe I've been, in fact, Egypt's a good example. I've been to Egypt where I've worked out every single day like a lunatic and come back, ripped and looking awesome. And I've also been to Egypt where that hasn't happened at all, and I've just laid by the beach and come back heavier and out of shape. I went on both of those trips with exactly the same intention to do everything right, and so when I come back, nothing's happened. I'm just moving on. The week's gone. Forget it. Water under the bridge. Move forward. But my intentions have never changed. So I'm a big believer. If you intend to do something and it doesn't happen, then that's not too bad a problem. But if you intend to screw up, then you've got to, not only have you got to get back on it, you've also got to get your head back on it, and your head is half the problem. So my head is always on it.
And you've got to address whether you're happy doing what you normally do anyway, if your intention is to screw up when you go away.
Yes, I have permanently good intentions, and some of the time my body is on board with that as well. I never have to fix my intentions. Even when I'm on my 5th Burger King of the day, my intention is not to have another Burger King. My mind is always there. There's no problem in my mind at all. I'm like, my mind is like the management of a company that is really on it and wants the best thing for the company. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers are a bit useless. But that's okay, because you can they can come round. But if your management is rubbish, it doesn't matter how good your workers are, your company's screwed. So I keep my kind of the board level. I'm all there. Sometimes the guys on the shop floor just need kick out the
Yeah,
backside
it's brilliant.
sometimes.
I think that's the important thing for me to remember because I every time I go away, I've always got my PE kits, always my running shoes and my PE kits. I always have the intention of doing stuff. So I think that's a really nice thing for me to learn from you is just so long as the intention is there, it doesn't matter if you manage to do it realistically. I really
No, well,
appreciate that.
absolutely. Yeah, when you come back and you take your trainers out your bag, you shouldn't think, "Oh no, disaster! I didn't use them." You should think, "Awesome! I went away with the intention of being a runner, so that hasn't changed. I'll go running today instead." As opposed to coming back thinking, "Oh, disaster, useless. Oh, I'm not a runner after all."
Might as well have no takeaway.
Yeah, indeed. This has proved how useless I am. Let's have a pizza. So no, I'm a big believer. If your intention is good, then the rest can sort itself out. I mean, it all comes back to your head. I mean, as you'll know from your struggles historically, it's all in your head. Everything. I mean, it's you can't emphasize that enough. If your head is not there, the rest of it is just meaningless.
So that transitions nicely into what I want to ask you next, because I'm currently we've done a lot of ultra marathons together, we've done a lot of running together, but I'm currently injured, so I'm rehabbing a hip injury, so I can't run any further than 6 kilometers at the moment. The first time I came across your videos on YouTube, and the first thing I showed Maria was when you were losing your shit in a field in the pitch black because you were doing an ultra marathon, and you were just like, "I'm in a fucking field.
Yeah.
This is rubbish. I don't want to be."
Yeah.
Maria's quite concerned at the moment. She's going to be doing a ultra in October, 80 kilometers. It's the first time she's raced one on her own. So have you got any advice on how not to lose your shit when you're on your own in a race like that and keep your head together?
No. I mean, no, because if you find yourself, if you're in a field in the middle of the night and you've been running for 16 hours, no. I mean, what else can you do but have a
Oh, great.
break,
Thanks, Mark.
have a breakdown? I mean, and funny enough, I've done that same run a couple of times, and on both of them, I've kind of fallen apart. I say fallen apart. I mean, I completed them, so clearly I didn't completely fall apart. But I think the thing with ultras, and the thing I enjoy about ultra marathons, or I did a long cycle ride recently. I look at it very much as and again, this might well be a male kind of thing, but I look at it very sort of primarily, is that even the word? Primorally. I look at it as getting from A to B. So when I do an ultra marathon, I love an ultra marathon that loops are cool, but the ones I've done, like the Thames Path one, go from A to B a long distance apart. The cycle ride I did recently went from one side of the UK to the other. And I look at that and I love that concept of I am here and I've got to get there. And it then becomes incredibly simple. It's literally one foot in front of the other, and you will get there. I don't worry about the time too much. I don't worry about anything. I just think I'm here. I've got to get there. 10,000 years ago, it's because whatever, a tribe is attacking, or whatever nonsense I need to kind of tell myself to kind of tap into some sort of prehistoric urge to move forward when everything feels a bit terrible. And I like that. I like that notion of, I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. When I did my 200-mile bike ride recently, I was kind of imagining a scenario whereby I don't know, it's like some sort of zombie apocalypse or something, and petrol's run out, and my bicycle is anything that's left, and my family's at the other side of the country, and I've got to get to them before dark when the zombies come out. So I need to pedal my bike. It's a hill. And so what? I just need to keep moving forward. And my watch is telling me, the joys of modern technology, it's telling me that that's happening. It's ticking down slowly. I'm not going to die. No one dies doing an ultra marathon. You've now got people in the comments saying, actually, my uncle died.
UTMB.
Yeah, happens all the time. You're very unlikely to die doing an ultra marathon. So for me, when it gets really, really horrible, I acknowledge that it's becoming horrible. because how can you not? But I also just acknowledge that it's kind of non-negotiable. I need to, because I was at A and I've got to get to B.
Yeah.
I don't want to kind of sound too kind of David Goggins about it because he's a bit of a lunatic for most people to kind of use as a guide. But there is a sort of just suck it up and keep going. You're not going to die. No one's going to, you're going to be. I've told myself that when I was reapplying Vaseline to chafed legs that was causing me to cry and vomit, I was also telling myself at the same time, but you won't die. No one ever
No one
dies.
dies of chafe.
No one dies
Yeah.
of chafe. No, it just doesn't
Yeah.
happen. And actually, go walk around the hospital. There's plenty of people with real problems. So stop being a baby.
Yeah.
Run, or walk. Or so no. The joy of an ultramarathon, or the point of an ultramarathon for me, is that as a human being, you're going to look back tomorrow or whenever you finish, and think, yeah, I went from there to there, mad, and it's just get it done. It's a very different thing to like a 5 or a 10K, where it's a much more constant awareness of pacing and effort, and it's all very kind of explosive in your mind. I've got to do this now, and I've got to push here. And an ultramarathon is just put one foot in front of the other and repeat, and just keep going. Yeah, unless you're trying to win it. I'm sure the guys winning it aren't doing that. But if you're just doing it,
It's not. I'm not going to podium. It's not the point.
No, but you are going to look back at your Strava map or whatever and think, bloody hell.
Fucking hell, I did 80K.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. I mean, and on the one hand, that puts you in the top, 1% of humans, because most humans aren't ever running 80K. But on the other hand, you're a human, so you should be able to run 80K, because human beings are supposed to be able to very slowly jog along. That's that.
Yeah, they wouldn't put these races on if it killed everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, ironically, if you made everybody run them, it would kill half the population. It'd be like it'd be like that was the Avengers movie where the guy snaps his fingers and half the world dies. You should have just got them all to go and do an ultra run. The 3/4 would just turn to dust immediately. But that's because people are a mess. Actually, an reasonably in shape human being should be able, again, as long as they're fit and able in all other ways, to just jog along slowly for a day.
Yeah.
Because
that's the thing. Like, I'm not an elite, and I can do it. Well, I can do 56.
You can do it.
Jen, are you doing yours on your own? Is yours a solo ultra?
No. So Mark is doing it with me. So he's been doing all my long runs with me, which is nice because I am a terrible person when it comes to pacing. So although we're not, as Mark has just made out the point, we're not going to be focusing on pacing or getting it done in a certain time when it comes to the 100K. We have throughout training tried to stick to like a 7-minute pace, just a plodding along pace, and Mark's been really helpful in just trying to get me to the point where I know what that feels like. At some point, I'll probably do a long run on my own just to see how that goes. I'd like to see if there's a difference, because Mark's motivational techniques of telling himself that somebody's going to die or something if he doesn't get to the finish line are techniques that I just roll my eyes at, because they don't work for me whatsoever. So when he's like, Nixon's going to die if you don't pick up the pace, I kind of look and go, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's just simply not, and I'll just slow down. So we're very
unless you're
different.
actually going to kill him, Mark.
I think, I'd love to talk to somebody more intelligent than me about this. I think that is a male kind of in your kind of DNA from thousands of years ago, that one of the jobs.
I use lava on the ultramarathons. I pretend there's a really slow spread of lava chasing.
Yeah,
me,
well,
I've just got to keep going.
Yeah, because your job. I mean, again, I'm probably upsetting lots of people now. Your job as a man, when you lived in a cave, would have been on occasion to put your life on the line and fix things, whether it's catch food or beat up the next door tribe. So for me, I do rely quite heavily on telling myself, if I do not get X done, this calamity is going to unfold, and it works for my kind of prehistoric brain. And again, if that doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for you. But yeah, and also I should say, just without getting too kind of
I
technical.
might try it as a technician.
Well, yeah, indeed, yeah. Well, you might think, screw him, let him die. I'll just go slower. Who knows? The training wise, the only thing we have done because you mentioned about not knowing pace. The one thing we have done on this ultra that's coming on all our ultras is the 50k that we're doing soon and the 100k we're doing in September. The reason we worry about pace is because it's not to go fast enough. It's to not go too fast, because the biggest mistake you can make is I say tearing off. Actually, it's not tearing off. It's going off at what you think is quite slow, but it's way too fast. So we are going to very deliberately go what we think is really slow and stick to it, because at about 3/4 of the way in, we will suddenly realise that is now faster than we can move, and then we start to move into that put one foot in front of the other kind of phase. If we ran off at the pace Jen would like to run off slowly at, it would be too fast, and we would be 1 foot in front of the other before we're even halfway. And 1 foot in front of the other, Goggins style, to be doing that for half of your ultra marathon is quite an ask. So the idea is to get as deep into it as possible, so that if Jen is saying to me on the 100k, I cannot take another step, and we've got 20k to go, then yes, you are. We're getting it done. If we're 20k in, and she's saying I cannot take another step, then I'm saying no, you probably can't. We're calling an Uber, because we're not doing 80k Goggins style. So we want to get as deep into it as possible before we have to start relying on,
Digging deep.
caveman brain. Yeah.
So when you do this ultra, it's 80. Don't choose me as the James is going to die if I don't get this done, because I'm quite sure when you get to 60k, you're just going to let me die.
Yeah, you got to pick something valuable. It's going to be truly valuable.
Pick something that really, fuck that guy.
What, like a cat?
Like your cat.
Like
Yeah,
my
choose a cat.
yeah.
If you've got a cat, yeah, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of cats. I'd be thinking, if I get this done, the cat does die. But yeah, whatever works for you.
So we appreciate your time, but we've got one more question, which is the most important part of every interview that we do. We asked our guests to choose a song each to go on the Get Out In It playlist on Spotify. Mark, I'm hoping for something from my favorite genre of action movies from the 80s, mate. So I'm leaning on you for this. But Jen, we'd also like you to add a song.
Well, Jen, go first.
Oh, well, yours is so easy. I feel like I could have had some time to think whilst you were clearly going to add yours.
Jen's going to give you some millennial
I wasn't
trash,
actually.
some dance nonsense from 2001 that she'd have been bopping about to as a teenager.
I was actually going to give the song that was in my head.
What was
No,
that?
it wasn't from earlier.
You were singing Waterloo earlier. Is that what you're going to do?
No, I was going to do Man in Motion, St. Elmo's Fire.
Were you? Wow.
Cool.
Old
Good
school.
choice.
Okay, St. Elmo's Fire. Interestingly, St. Elmo's Fire is actually quite relevant because, boring pop fact, St. Elmo's Fire, the song that goes with the movie, was actually written about a guy doing maybe it's like a wheelchair marathon or something. If you listen to the lyrics of St. Elmo, so there you go, pop quiz. Go and listen to the lyrics of St. Elmo's Fire. The song is written about a guy that was a real story about a guy that was doing a wheelchair marathon, I think it was, or some incredible feat of running, and it ended up being used for the movie St. Elmo's Fire. It's nothing to do with St. Elmo's Fire. So there you go. So
hence why it was called Man in Motion.
Every day's a school day.
There you go.
Every day's a school day.
I'm going to go with well, it's tricky. I mean, I suppose I have to go with the kind of Burning Hearts. That's some rocky kind of nonsense. But the truth be told, at the moment I'm not training to that. At the moment I'm training. In fact, I'm not going to go with that. I take it back. I'm going to put something a bit more.
What are you training to at the moment?
I'm listening to a lot of Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits.
Are you?
Yeah, it's the majority of my musical accompaniments to my exercise. I don't use music a lot, but when I do, it has to have an association with the movie. So if I'm listening to, I'm trying to think. I was listening to Danger Zone, so I'm imagining that I'm Tom Cruise. there has to be a link to a movie, and I then get the two, the audio, and I get the visual in my head. For me, the Dire Straits Brothers in Arms was used in a scene on The West Wing, which everyone's watched The West Wing will know it, and it's kind of like a pivotal moment in the TV show where a guy kind of decides he's going to go for it. So when I'm doing something that I know is going to require an extreme amount of effort at the end of it, like a 5K, I will literally time my playlist so that Brothers in Arms is building up to a kind of a Mark Knopfler guitar solo at the exact moment that I need to dig down and go. And at the same time, I'm playing in my head a scene from The West Wing that accompanies it. So there you
Perfect.
go. There you
Perfect.
go. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I do the same. I have a playlist for a half marathon that I always time it perfectly so it gets to the title track from The Last of the Mohicans as I'm coming down the finishing straight, and that's my ender for that one.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, funny enough, I used to have Dunbar's theme, which is a track from the album that accompanies Dances with Wolves. So there you go. To go with your kind of Native American theme there. I used to have that running at some point. It's a bit slow. That's a nice one for like an ultra marathon where you are just kind of, you need to lose yourself. Sometimes you need to lose yourself. I listen to what do I listen to a lot? Jungle Town and stuff. I listen to a lot of Bruce Springsteen when I'm running long distances, and I just kind of go into a different place in my head and just forget everything and just suddenly think, oh my goodness, it's been 10 minutes has gone by. So I use songs like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. If that means nothing to you, you're going to have to watch the entire season of The West Wing to give it some sort of poignancy. That's quite an ask.
Context.
Or just the Dire Straits, because they're fucking awesome. Fucking love that band.
Yeah, I listen quite a bit. I listen to stuff like Your Latest Trick and stuff like that. When I'm trying to lose myself on an ultra marathon, and you ask about in the middle of the night, I'll put on something like that, and just kind of I want to just kind of lose myself in tranquility. There's a Bruce Springsteen song, Across the River, which is almost like a kind of a poetic ballad, and again it just kind of almost just kind of fall asleep mentally. And suddenly I think, oh wow, another 5 minutes has gone, another half K. So sometimes music isn't to pump me up; it's just to
Get you through.
or just kind of allow me to just kind of turn off almost, and just brain shuts down. Just leave the legs to it, and just go somewhere else momentarily.
Somewhere else.
I find that very helpful when you're trying to get your breathing under control. Like I just concentrate on the song. So when I find that I'm concentrating on my breathing, it gets worse. But if I just lose myself in the song, my breathing does come back down to normal.
Yeah, because breathing's a good one. If you can control your breathing, bizarrely, well, not bizarrely, it makes obvious sense. But it's bizarre that you have that much control over it. If you can control your breathing, suddenly everything just gets easier. So I just find sometimes it's nice just to calm down, and for that I need Mark Knopfler warbling on about latest tricks and stuff.
Well, on Saturday and on the Ultra in September, you have my voice soothing it instead.
Yeah, I'd rather have Mark Knopfler. but thanks anyway.
How was that? Hang on, just out of interest, what did you do? Like a pre-recorded? What was the? How did that happen?
Are you a singer?
No, God.
No. We aren't singing to each other.
I could do.
Jen just thinks I'm going to just chat to her during the ultra marathon, but I don't talk or sing to her really, other than towards the end when I say, "Pace is off, get a move on."
I do actually. I have on our limitless trails ones in Wales. I have sung "Hearts on Fire" as we're going down one of the mountains.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you say nice. You weren't there.
Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. We won't take up any more of your time. I hope the ultra goes well when it happens, and you enjoy every second of it.
This Saturday for 50k, and then start of September for the 100.
That's so cool.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Brilliant. We look forward to seeing the video of this Saturday then.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Up next week.
Thanks for having us, and make sure you put those fires out before you come home.
Yeah, we will do.
Our adventure continues this afternoon. Now we've got a 4-hour bus journey to a different airport that might take us out of here. We'll see.
Well, enjoy a pizza before you go.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The debrief.
The emphasis was correct, I feel.
Well, that was awesome, wasn't it? What did you think of what they had to say?
Well, quite frankly, I needed this conversation so hard this week because I'm spiraling a little bit. You know, you were in the vortex of my spiral. So it was so nice to chat open and frankly with Mark and Jen, a normal human woman with no hang-ups about food or eating, which was amazing. But to have that frank and open discussion with them about food and fitness and trying to keep on top of things when you're going through your normal day, but also when your normal days aren't being normal and you're out of routine and out of schedule, and everything goes a little bit tits up. It was good for my mind to have that frank discussion with Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mark's someone who's done a lot of work on himself, and he's probably would be the first to admit he's not the finished product. But he reminds me of me in the sense that I know where my faults are, I know what I have issues with, and I've put strategies in place to deal with those. And even to the point where I know that I can allow myself off the path I've chosen and therefore be able to draw a line when I come back on without it ricocheting down through the week or the month. And so I enjoyed listening to someone who approaches it in a similar way to me, really. And Jen is a breath of fresh air, really. She seems to, just like she's in her own words, she doesn't have any hang-ups or relationship issues with food, which is always good to hear. But she's coming from a different place. She's coming from a place where she's sort of relatively new to exercising to a level when it comes to performance. And it was interesting listening to her talk about that journey and how her relationship with food has changed after that. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but her relationship with food didn't change in any kind of negative way. No. And I think for people like you and Mark and myself, where we've had these background issues with food that were fairly traumatic, and we are now a little bit older and coming to fitness a little bit older, not as pros, but just as people who want to live longer, healthy lives, it's quite difficult for me at least to not have that black and white perspective on my fitness now and what I'm doing. And I think that was why I really wanted to have a chat with them about food and fitness and changing schedules, because it was taking me to a fairly dark place. Despite the wildfires, I was in the dark. So yeah, it was really, really cool. And they're a funny couple, as in humorous. And it was a really, really good convo. I really enjoyed talking to them.
And what I enjoyed was that ultimately the right way to do things is still the right way to do things. People just have strategies that they employ to put themselves in a position where that helps them make those decisions. I really liked the intentionality thing. Yeah. Where if you go away or you go on holiday or you go away for work or whatever, take your gear with you, because the intention to do things is the most important thing to maintain, almost more important than the actual doing itself, because if you lose the intention to do things, that's a harder thing to get back than having missed 2 or 3 runs.
Yeah, I loved it when he said that, because I'm always taking my running shoes and my PE kits away on holiday, and it was nice for him to say, I really appreciated the fact that he said that if you've got the intention, your mindset is still there, because I do, my mind does try to fuck me over quite often. So that was really nice for me to hear. I think I appreciated that a lot. Oh, and also the thing about time, like when he said, there's just not enough time left. We're all going to be dead soon. So stop wasting time worrying about that nonsense.
Indeed. And that's a balance, isn't it? I appreciated the fact, it happened to me when I was about 30, I think, because I had a kind
When
of...
was that? Like yesterday?
Yeah, that was yesterday. I had a kind of moment in my life when I was about 29, 30, where I was like, you know what? I've got to stop fucking about and get on with seeing what I'm capable of within relative to what I can actually do with my time and my life. Or I'm going to reach a point where, you know, I'm getting older and I start to run out of time. But also what I like on the counterpoint to that is there is still time, and beating yourself up repeatedly because you missed a run or you had a bad week or you had 3 weeks off training because life got in the way, ultimately in 5 years' time, whether you can get out of bed without groaning or not is not going to be affected by that 1 week, 1 day, 3 weeks. It's going to be affected by a trend over time, which, as you know me well, that's how I put it to myself. I mean, they've got their own ways of saying things. I always say that to anyone I coach or anyone I work with, the most important thing to look at is the taking a step back and looking at the trend over time, not what's happened to you that day, what's happened to you that week, but what's happened to you that year. How has your movement and activity and health increased or improved over time?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that my brain needs. I don't know where I've got the number 7 from. I either made it up or I read it somewhere, but as a language teacher, I often say to my students that they need to have said or have something repeated to them or repeat it themselves at least 7 times before their brain has it like stuck in there forever. So it's that's my go-to number 7. Things need to be told to me 7 times before I understand and have internalized them. And I think if those things are reiterated in variations on a theme of, that's going to make all the difference as well. So you saying the same thing, Mark saying the same thing. I think I'm starting to learn that it's not the daily behavior or the weekly behavior that's the important thing. It's the long-term life behavior. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and that's where the intentionality comes into it, because I've never thought of it like that. I just know that whenever I go away, I take all my training gear with me because it's part of who I am and part of what I do. But I don't beat myself up if I don't do the training when I'm away. I just like to have it there so that, you know, if it comes about and there's an opportunity, then I'll do it. What I don't want to be is away and not be able to train because I haven't got my running kit with me. But I'm quite good at drawing a line if I haven't done anything while I'm away, or even if I have. You're getting there with that slowly. But yeah, everyone has their own ways, their own methodologies and their own strategies to put in place something that works for them, whatever story you need to tell yourself. But ultimately, it's about a sustained effort over time and increased effort and improvement and moving towards where you want to be over time. That's, I think, the most important thing. I mean, it comes down to, it's a staid old phrase, but consistency is key. But that consistency doesn't have to reach into every single day or every single second of your life. It simply needs to be a trend over time.
Nice. Like the difference between weather and climate.
Fuck yeah. Like the difference in weather and climate. Exactly that. Yeah, there's a lot can be said on that. Shall we go and have a coffee and see what it's all about?
Yeah, but I also wanted to just quickly mention that I really loved John's John's way of getting through ultras and believing that he's in some kind of zombie apocalypse.
Who the fuck is John?
Oh my god. Sorry, Mark and Jen. John. Fuck you, John. It's not your turn today. I also just wanted to say I really enjoyed Mark's approach to getting through super long ultra marathons by pretending he's in some kind of zombie apocalypse. I'm going to try that tactic when I'm doing my 8K in October. So thanks for that, Mark.
Yeah, indeed. I like that as well. Particularly slow-moving zombies. I hope they would be, because you don't want to be sprinting on an ultra, do you?
Oh, you don't want the kind of last train to Busan zombies from... Did you ever watch that movie? Yeah, I don't want those zombies. I'd be fucked. I'd be well fucked.
Yeah, you want slow zombies. That's why I choose lava, because it doesn't move very fast. You just got to keep moving. Yeah. Stay away from the lava.
But quite frankly, I'm sick of hot right now.
And also, did you know that lava is so viscous you wouldn't sink if you trod on it?
You might not sink, but you would melt
you'd-
like the fucking witch from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it would be hot and you'd burn, but you wouldn't actually sink into it.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, let's have a coffee and forget all about it.
Let's do coffee. The weekly roast. Is that it? So I'm taking another one for the team. I've done the coffee again this week because we're in Sicily, and on our very last day we popped over to. We didn't pop. It took fucking hours to go on a bus to Catania, where we had a bunch of vegan food in this one vegan restaurant that we found. We had burgers and we had tacos and all kinds of delicious stuff. And then we found a cafe that serves up specialty coffee, which is from a company called Etna Roaster, which is a micro roastery. And it's located, right, this is perfect for you and your lava runs, on the slopes of Mount Etna. It's pretty fucking epic, right?
It was pretty fucking. it was very epic, and I was very impressed with the flavour of this coffee. It was really kind of dark and rich, which was nice. And there's something about coffee that's roasted in the fires of a volcano that I'm up for.
I mean, it's a little bit Mount Doom in the Ring.
Mount Doom in the Ring?
Mount Doom and the Ring.
Mount Doom and the Ring, yeah. It was indeed. And Etna's an impressive thing to see.
It was pretty fucking epic.
Yeah, and so very impressed with this. Everybody should check them out.
They should. And, you can even drink it black. Because, I was. Because there's not an awful lot of oat milk going around Sicily. But yeah, it's pretty fucking nice.
Link in the show notes for those that want to check them out or those that are in Sicily and want to know where to go. This is the bollocks.
Let's be honest.
All right, so my Let's Be Honest this week is it was basically covered in the convo that we had with Mark and Jen. I had some troubles this week because I was on holiday and not on sports camps, making sure kids didn't die whilst doing extreme sport activities. I had a lot more time in my own brain, going round and round and round and round, saying, you haven't been training, stop eating pizza. So it's a bit of a mindfuck. So my Let's Be Honest was pretty much covered with Mark and Jen, and I really, really appreciated that. It was a nice talk down. And I just need to be able to not get stuck in my own brain. That's my Let's Be Honest.
You will get there. Everybody has these troubles sometimes. But ultimately, with the more experience you've got over what your body can and can't do and what happens to you when you do or don't do it, you'll start to feel more confident in the parameters of what you can and can't get away with. Ultimately, you can get away with anything as long as you're willing to rectify it afterwards. There's no rule book on what you should or shouldn't do. You're just always trying to, like I've said many times, trend over time. Yeah. My Let's Be Honest is, it's still a struggle. I'm now running 2 times 15 minutes, and it's hard. My form is not great. My knee drive isn't there. It hurts, but I keep having to remind myself, because I keep thinking it hurts as much as it did when I first started the rehab period 4 weeks ago, and it does hurt as much as it did then, but then I could only run for 1 minute and then walk for 2, and I was only running a maximum of 1.5 kilometers, and it's as painful, but now I'm running for 15 minutes times 2, and I'm running for 5-6 kilometers. So yes, the pain is still there, but it's the old, it never hurts any less, you just get faster. And so the pain is decreasing, but I'm just running up to it. And so that point at which it starts to become limiting is getting further away. So the improvements are coming, but God, I miss running properly.
Well, we did a run in between my sports camps. We did a run on the Saturday around the Lac de Sapin. And you were nowhere near. And then we ran yesterday when we got back to France. And I thought there was a massive improvement in the way you were running yesterday compared to that run we did where I just ended up fucking off into the distance because I wanted to get a proper run in, and so I fucked off.
Yeah, and there is the huge difference between that run 2 weeks ago and now. But it's just hard to sense it yourself when you're running, because the pain is, you feel like you're still running as badly as you were. I'm not. I'm running faster. I'm running further. It's just, you've got to keep reminding yourself. And that's where, when you're on a rehab journey like this, data and, devices that will tell you how far you're running and how fast you're running can be really useful, because you can look at your watch and go, I feel just as rubbish as I did when I was running 9-minute kilometers a few weeks ago, but I'm actually now running 6.5-minute kilometers. The pain's not getting worse. The speed is getting faster. So, it is what it is. Should we put some music on and forget about it?
Absolutely. I've got a banger today. Turn it up.
That'll probably do, won't it? So if you've got a banger, do you want to go first?
Go on then. Right. So while we were in Piazza Amarino in Sicily, we stayed at this glorious little B&B called Giardino delle Zagari, which is an amazing Italian accent, I'll have you know. That was very impressive. All Italians around the world are going, fuck me, she's native. So we were staying at this lovely, lovely B&B. And the guy who ran it was an absolute rock star. But for the breakfast part of this B&B, every time we went down in the morning, he was playing fucking Michael Bublé. Fucking Bublé. The same rubbish, generic, lift music, jazz, every single fucking morning. So to combat that, the tune I've picked for today is a tune by an actual, decent, talented jazz singer and performer.
Is it me?
It's not you. Oh. No, maybe one week. Maybe one week we'll put you on. It's Jamie Cullum.
Okay.
Jamie Cullum, fucking rock star. Also very talented pianist. And somebody with actual non-Bublé talent.
And we both used to work in the cafe where he was discovered. Hey? That's where we first met.
Tantric Jazz in Bristol. Jamie Cullum.
20 odd years ago.
Yeah. Been a fan of Jamie Cullum ever since. Anyway, so I picked this song from his 2013 Momentum album. It's called On the Edge of Something, which I thought was relevant to the fact that we were so near Mount Etna, and also the fact that, I spent quite a few days spiraling on the edge of something, like a madness. So I thought this was perfect. What's your tune?
Well, I have chosen a song this week, which is one of my favourite live acoustic tracks by Chris Cornell, which is a cover of the Sinead O'Connor song Nothing Compares to You, as a tribute to Sinead, who we lost this past week. And sad news, because she was a hell of an artist and a hell of a performer and a hell of a human.
Oh yeah, that was super sad news. That's nice, actually. Aw, I like that tribute. Yeah, I'm down with that. It's better than my fuck you to Bublé.
Yeah, I'm good for a tribute, me. I am. But I think that's probably it from us, isn't it?
It is. Am I going to get in trouble for saying fuck you to Bublé?
Fuck you, Bublé. All right.
Bye.
Cheerio.
Thanks for hitting the trails with us this week. We'll meet you back here next Monday for more news, more views, more nature.
All the links for our socials are in the show notes. Find and follow us on Facebook, Insta, YouTube and Twitter. You can subscribe to our newsletter from our website for all the latest updates and camp plans. You get a fun free gift when you sign up.
Leave a review on your podcast app. It's really easy and really helps us out.
And if you've got any friends who could do with getting out in it, then bring them along to next week's outdoor adventure. We'd love to have you all with us.
Catch you next week. Cheerio.